Yeah.
Ooh. Beej,
Yarp.
how would you like to explain to us how to play Magic?
I mean, I never thought you guys would ask for my assistance, but...
So, Beej, I want to play Magic.
Right.
How do I play Magic?
Go. So you're going to need a deck, and then when you get the deck, what you're going to want to do is deal equal cards to each side. So I believe each one of you gets 7 cards. So deal 7 cards off the top to, one at a time, you to your opponent, and one back to you.
Between 2 opponents?
All I hear is that everybody has their own deck. So I'm assuming it's you make a deck of cards that you want yourself. I believe up to 100, and then you just basically deal cards back and forth to each person, and you'll both.
Like poker.
Yeah, it's essentially like poker. You're trying to build the best hand you can, but it's not. You don't play it like poker in the fact that you're going to lay all your cards down at once. The idea is that you're actually trying to play a card at a time to make the other guy jealous for how much you spent on your deck.
Oh, like rummy.
Yeah. So the thing is there's mana. You're going to need mana to play.
Okay. Is
How
that separate
do
from
I
the
find
deck?
mana?
You can bake mana yourself, because I wouldn't expect it to have to come strictly from heaven, but you could make it yourself, and then you can equally apportion it, but you're only allowed to pull a certain amount of mana every turn.
How do I make mana? Do I use an oven?
You can do it in an oven or in a toaster oven. Some people have fried mana. You can fry mana in honey.
Could you make a mana omelet?
Yeah, you could. I mean, really, you could put anything you want in an omelet. Ultimately, I mean, like eggs are good on their own, but I mean, if you put in like peppers or onions, I mean, people really enjoy doing that. So
How does that make it spicy?
you could just throw in mana with your omelet. So
How do I win?
how do you win? So the idea, like I said, the idea of the game is not to make the other person like jealous over how much you spend on your deck, obviously, because if you're playing with your deck, then they're just always going to be jealous based on whatever the cards that come out is. The idea to win is that you have to get them down to nothing. They have a certain amount of life. We all play with hit points. And so based on the amount of hit points you have and based on the amount of mana in your hand, that's the amount of mana points that you have. So now the hit points that you have, everybody starts with 20, but as you continue to play, you can level up and you can get 30 or 40. That's through something called Lifelink, I think. So you can expand the amount of hit points that you have. As you play the game, you're going to be allowed to play creatures out of your deck. But whenever you play a creature, they do come out unarmed, and so what you'll have to do most likely is equip them with special weapons. They refer to those as artifacts because artifacts can be with both weapons and armor. Now, if you choose to play a creature without a weapon, that's going to depend on how much mana that you use to actually pull them out in the first place. And they give you some helpful numbers on the top to say this is the optimal amount of mana you're going to need to actually cast this creature if it wants to do any damage. So when everybody says this is a 3-1 for 1, what they're saying is that you're going to need 3 pieces of mana. You're going to need to play it only once, and you can only do 1 bit of damage with it. Now,
Flawless.
the game continues back and forth. Everybody has 7 steps, and those 7 steps are unturn, rotate, flunge, mill. What were the other ones again? And then there's a graveyard step where you're allowed to go into your graveyard and recruit skeletons. If you have skeletons in your graveyard, you're allowed to do that. If you have not put anything in your graveyard yet, you cannot recruit a skeleton out of your graveyard. Every turn finishes with a tap to indicate that you're done playing. And if you do not tap...
Like knock rummy.
Yeah, like knock rummy, essentially, yeah. If you do not tap, then you're not signaling that you actually are able, like the game can continue. And this has created a lot of problems because magic is not played with a chess clock to indicate how much time you have to in order to play. So what has happened at tournament levels is that people have basically just chosen not to tap at a certain amount of time in hopes of tiring out their opponent so that they'll be waiting to play. They'll get irritated and frustrated, and then they'll actually play an incorrect card at a certain turn, which causes either they have to lose some of their mana points or they have to take a hit to their hit points, kind of like a 5-yard penalty. Now, at the end of a game, what you can choose to do is that if the two of you are at a point where, because if you're going to play like an entire match, you're going to want to play at least 3 times against each other to see who really is the ultimate, like if you're enough of a magic master, essentially.
A wizard.
A wizard, really. When it comes down to it, is a game that's played between like friendly wizards.
So like Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah, kind of like Yu-Gi-Oh. So when you get to the end of it, you can just opt to, if you've decided that you've been having a really good game, you've had a really good time with each other, you can just turn, look at each other and like, hey, you know what? Why don't we just like agree to tie on this last game? and then we can split the winnings. And
What are the winnings?
the winnings generally, like, these are
I've heard about a thing called ante.
Yeah, well, when you begin playing the game, you can choose to bet money or cards or basically anything else that's in your because what happens is that when you finish playing, you'll have to you may have to relinquish some of your cards in that respect. People will choose to put up what the dollar value of the card is anyway, and all that's decided by the secondary market, which is a completely fine thing to have in a tournament setting anyway. Nobody really cares too much about that as it is. Now, everyone's really cool coming down to, because it's a friendly thing you can do. Everyone's really cool. Just by the time you get to the end of the match, you can just choose to split, and then everyone can just be like, yeah, you know what? I'm just going to go home with some packs on my own, and I'll just decide that. You might even decide just if you're only playing for a single pack, you might open the pack yourself and then turn it over, and then each one of you will just draw one by one. Generally, people tend to do that without shuffling because they think it's fair. Yeah.
Where they did that, only they ripped the card.
Oh.
They did it with a pack of
Split second?
No, was it Legends or something? And they turned over one. It was a card called like Mana Drain or something. They all seemed really upset.
Oh.
Because the guy ripped it in half.
Yeah, I mean, really, at a tournament, cards are kind of treated as sacrosanct. Is that if you own a card, the best thing to do with goodwill is to ensure that everybody has an opportunity to play with it. And if you, because that's the whole thing, you should never have to buy more than a couple packs to actually play the game. But most people will, decide that they want to build up to a deck of 100 different cards, and that's easy enough. That's just going to your game store and then walking in and saying, I'd like to buy half of that box. You assemble a deck out of what's in that entire box, and then you just lay everything out and shuffle it and then play it as that. I mean, when you win, it's important to be gracious. If you win somebody else's card and then you tear it up, that's kind of just like spitting in their face. It's not really a kind thing to do.
You don't want to flip the table at them and then like jump kick them in the throat?
No. I mean, that's kind of a faux pas within the scene, and we recommend that people not fight that way. I mean, I've shot a lot of Friday nights with you guys, so I have a really good idea that I know what I'm talking about.
All right.
Yeah, okay.
Sounds like he's got it nailed, really.
And that's how you play Magic the Gathering.